So to recap on what we learned in the last video, we were looking at overtime, and we know that there are two different types of overtime that an employee can be paid, and the one that we're looking at is time and a half. So in the previous video, we were looking at how do we work out what the overtime wage of time and a half is based on our base wage. So we remember that that formula we were using was the base wage times 1.5 hours, and we remember that the 1 in the 1.5 represents 1 whole hour of work, and the 0.5 represents an extra half an hour, okay, on top of our base wage. So now what we need to start thinking about is that we know how to find time and a half overtime wage based on an employee's base wage. So now we need to kind of put this all into context, because not every shift that an employee will work will be paid all at one wage. When we go to work, we're expected to work a certain amount of hours. If we're asked to stay back, or we end up having to work longer than expected, or we might have to work on the weekend, or we might need to work on a public holiday, we're going to get paid overtime. But it's not necessarily for the whole shift. So, for example, if I was to work, say, at McDonald's and I worked a 6.5 hour shift, and my manager came to me and said, "Oh, Jess, we need you to stay an extra 2 hours." And I said, "That's okay." Then that 6.5 hours that I'd already worked would be paid at my base wage, so my normal rate of pay. But those extra 2 hours where I'm working longer than what I was supposed to is going to be paid at an overtime rate. So that's how it works. However, for example, if I was to go to work on a Sunday, my whole Sunday shift, because it is a weekend and depending on what industry you work in, could be paid at my overtime rate for the whole shift. So there are a couple of different scenarios. So we need to be able to work out, looking at timesheets, when we are paid our base rate and when we will be paid overtime. This is really important for when you start to go to work and have to start filling in, your timesheet and making sure that you've been paid correctly based on your timesheet. So I have an example here, and the example is for a boy called Sam who is working at Waterworld. And you'll see that I also have Sam's timesheet, okay, which I've just drawn a little arrow to. So this is the hours that Sam has worked during the week. So here's the problem. Sam works at Waterworld and is paid a base wage of $14 per hour. Below are the hours Sam worked in 1 week. Most of the hours are paid at his normal wage, his base rate. However, Sam had to stay back on a couple of shifts and worked on the weekend. This means that Sam will be paid overtime for these hours. So if we have a look at Sam's time sheet, we've got the normal hours here. And then we've got his time and a half hours here. So on Monday, he's working 6.5 hours. Tuesday, he's working 7.5 hours. Wednesday, he's working 7.5 hours. But you'll see that he's also worked an extra half an hour at a time and a half. This is the same for Thursday, where Sam's worked 7.5 hours and an extra hour, which is going to be paid at time and a half. Friday, he works 7.5 hours. Saturday is a weekend, and you'll notice that he's not paid at his normal rate for that shift. He's going to be paid at time and a half. And then lucky Sam, he gets Sunday off. So in total, Sam has worked 36.5 hours, which is going to be paid to him at his normal base wage, okay, his normal rate. And then he's worked a total of 6.5 hours at time and a half, which means he's going to get paid a little bit extra per hour. So how do we work out how much Sam actually gets paid during this week? You'll need to look down here at the solution. Okay, so to solve the problem, we have to work out Sam's normal wage separate to his half separate to his time and a half wage, and then add the two totals together. So, to work out his normal wage, this is really straightforward, okay? His normal wage, we know he's worked 36 and a half hours, and we know from the information provided above that his base wage is $14 per hour. So this is really easy. All we need to do is, using our calculator, go 36.5, so 36 and a half hours, times his base wage of $14. When we enter that into our calculator, that will give us a total of $511. So Sam's doing quite well for himself. Now we're going to have a look at the time and a half wage. There is a two-step process to working this out. To work out the first part, we need to know, okay, if Sam's base wage is $14 per hour, what's his time and a half wage? We work out Sam's time and a half wage by using the formula that we were using in the other video. So we need to have a look at the top of the page up here, okay, where we've got my base wage formula. So Sam's base wage is $14 and we need to times that by 1.5. So if we have a look here, okay, I've got $14, I've timesed it by 1.5, and that's given me $21. So we now know that when Sam works overtime and he's going to get paid time and a half, he's actually getting paid $21 per hour. The second step to solving this problem is working out how many hours in total Sam has worked overtime and where he's going to be getting paid at that time and a half rate. And we know from this table above that it is 6.5 hours. So the formula is simple. 6.5 hours times $21 gives us a total of $136.50 when we enter that into our calculator. So to finish off solving this problem, the very last thing that we need to do is calculate Sam's total earnings for the week. And we do this by using the information that we have just collected in the two previous sums. So we add Sam's normal wage, how much he's going to get paid, which is that $511 at his normal wage, okay? And we add that to how much he is going to get paid for that time that he is working overtime, which is $136.50. When we add all of that into our calculator, we get given our total, which is $647.50. So that's the total amount of money that Sam is going to earn during that week of work. So now it's your turn. We're going to work together to go through the formula again that you need to follow, as well as one more example to be able to help you do your own sums. So as you can see, the formula is up here, okay? It has all of the steps that you need to follow to solve all of the problems that are listed below. You'll see that there are 3 steps to our formula, okay? So we have step 1, step 2, and step 3. You will need to complete all 3 steps for the sums below. So let's break it down one more time. So our example is here. Brody works at Bunnings and is paid a base wage of $16.80. During the week, Brody works 36.5 hours and is paid at his normal pay. On top of that, Brody works 6 hours overtime, paid at time and a half. The question is, what is Brody's wage for the week? So I've underlined all of the important information, and I suggest that when you're working through your problems that you do the same. So you will see for step 1. Step 1, we want to find out how much Brody is going to be paid at his normal pay. So we know that Brody's base wage is $16.80. We know that Brody works 36.5 hours at his normal base wage. So when we enter that into our calculator, that gives us a total of $613.20 that Brody has earned at his normal base wage. Step 2, is working out the time and a half. So this is a two-step process, and I'll bring your attention back up to here. Okay, these are the steps that you will need to follow. So part one, okay, the first part is working out how much does Brody actually get paid per hour when he works overtime at time and a half. So we times his base wage, $16.80, by 1.5, which represents time and a half. This tells us that Brody's hourly wage at time and a half is $25.20. So the second step is finding out how much Brody earns at time and a half. To do this, we get his overtime rate of $25.20, and we times that by the 6 hours of overtime that he works. This gives us a total of $151.20. Now, to work out the total weekly wage that Brody has earned, I want to draw your attention back up to here, up to step 3. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to add together the total normal pay and the total overtime pay. We need to add that together. So from step 1, okay, we know that Brody earns $613.20 at his normal base wage. He then earns $151.20 at his overtime wage. So to work out what Brody's weekly wage is, we simply add those two numbers together, the $613.20 and the $151.20, and that gives us a total of $764.40. So what you need to do now is you need to look at these problems down below, and in your book or on a piece of paper, using a calculator and making sure that you show all your steps and working out that you use to solve the problems, you need to go through and work through problems 1 through to 4. Once you've finished problems 1 through to 4, please come and see me so that I can make sure that you've got them all right and we can have a chat about anything that you may not understand. Good luck!